To order and pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And let's hope it change that way after next week. Did everybody sign in?
Yes.
Okay. We have a couple of new people, so why don't we go around and introduce ourselves? I'm Karen Bacchus. I'm on the school committee. I am the chair of Subcommittee of Health and Wellness.
I kind of said it, but you were out of the room. Anything else you want to know about me? I'm
She's
here to help
amazing.
out.
Bill McCaffrey, Assistant Superintendent, Director of Secondary, wear a lot of hats and solve a lot of problems. And the phone's on 24/7, so you can do what you want. Call us up.
Ryan McGowan, a product of our schools. I have a couple of kids in the school system, and I own Laid Back Fitness and all that.
I'm Jen, the general manager for Aramark, and I also have two kids in this school. I did not go to school here myself, but I have two kids at Sherman Elementary School, so I'm a mom as well here.
And a tennis player.
And a tennis player, yes. I'm just waiting for
We
that.
just have to get those tennis courts cleaned up
Yes.
so you can play.
Yes.
Okay, I'm Karen Wetherell, and I'm with Rhode Island Healthy Schools Coalition, which is a statewide organization, and we support all school districts in the state.
And I'm Jeff Taylor. I work here in Warwick. I'm the Executive Director of Accountability and Compliance and Technology and Innovation.
Thank you.
Fancy.
Good job, girls.
That's
Okay, health and wellness statewide. Karen, you have the agenda. You can, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah,
Put everything I could think of.
okay, gosh. So
Any seats open?
I can see some of the things on here are from our monthly e-newsletter that we send out. So I would just say to folks, if you haven't signed up directly, I don't know, do you have it sent out? I know some other committees will ask.
You know what, I should start that. Let me make it.
Yeah.
Because it's an awesome newsletter. You guys
Yeah,
do
and it
a-
only comes out, what I always say to people, it only comes out once a month. There are sometimes you get just overwhelmed in your inbox and nobody can handle that, but it just comes out once a month, and there are a lot of great, and as I said, these things I think were from the last one. A new one will be coming out in November, but it's just, if you go onto our website, rihsc.org, right on the main menu is e-newsletter, and you can sign up right there. But the thing is, so a lot of Karen, other district wellness chairs will have the admin send it out to all the principals, you know, in the district too, for their awareness. So that's something that you might want to consider. I'll just say, because if any of you have any ideas of something unique going on in Warwick, every e-news starts off with something that we say is our school wellness spotlight. And it's just something, it doesn't have to be something huge, but just an example of something that a school or a district is doing that might inspire others and give ideas. This last month, Well Spaces was with Cherho. I think all of you did you guys get funding from that grant? The well, so it was like furniture, it was from
I
Ride.
think we did.
Mm-hmm. And I just happened to be out at Cherho, and it was so cool to see, and there's photographs in there of the kids at the high school, the middle school, and elementary, how they were using them, and there's some quotes from kids. We've talked a lot about our the Right to Know, which is our teen and young adult sexual and reproductive health app. Right now, and I have some of these too for people who may not have attended our Breakfast for School Wellness Leaders, but in here we have, with the Right to Know web app, we have free promotional materials. And I think I passed out the last time I was here some of the cards, but this is the English. We have them in English and Spanish too, but just 8.5 by 11 posters. And we have these flyers, and then we have the small business size, like pocket cards, I call them. And there's a website, there's a QR code here in our program book from the event that we just had, because we shared a video about the web app where you can order. So if there's someone, typically, I don't know if you have the chair of the health and wellness, the health and PE department, because the health teachers are teaching this in their class, and this could be a
Yeah, I
resource.
want to get this out because it's a fantastic resource. It also takes the pressure off of us and the parents yelling at us for whatever we teach, and puts it in the hands of the students. And
Themselves, yeah.
then they can take,
Yeah,
learn whatever they want.
Right.
Whatever they're ready for.
and
whatever.
parents, even parents themselves, I've actually heard from some parents who are school committee members because they were in here, or parents like, this really helped me. There was one in particular, she said, who knew it was going to come in handy so quickly? She had the little card in her pocket, but she's a mom, and she said, I went out to walk the dog that night with my 13-year-old, and we were talking about, she had an appointment coming up, she needed to get vaccinations, and she had questions about HPV. And she said, and I was like, I don't really know. And I thought, oh, yes. And we both went on and we got the information that we needed. And she was like, oh, this is kind of good that I could, use this. So even for parents. So it's here. I can follow up, Karen, with an email to you with just a little blurb. And I think the nurses too. So those are kind of at the health teachers that are in your high school and middle school. And then the nurses might want to order some of these, and whether you did that as a district, department, or individually, probably best maybe as a district, because the health department will put them together and mail them. Or I've even said, if I'm coming out, rather than paying to have it, I would even deliver them.
All right, you can come up and get.
Okay, yeah, that's great too. So I'll follow up with you and send that. But I know some of you were there, but if any,
I see one.
yeah.
It
So this
fun.
was this past Wednesday. It's an annual event that we host, and you were there.
I was not there.
You were, because you were, okay, here.
I was away.
Can I push it across the table? And,
Okay.
okay. So this is an annual event that we have. This was our biggest yet. We're kind of outgrowing the Crown Plaza Ballroom. We had over 450 leaders from all of our school districts, and then community members as well. So the inside, what's tucked in, are all of the exhibitors from lots of organizations that are there with resources and, grant funding and programs to support schools, all there, recognizing our role is you can't do it on your own. There's so many things on the plate of schools, but having healthy students is a part of having better learners. So it's a critical, which is why this committee exists. But this event, the program, the speaking program, this year we had 2 panels that were from Rhode Island, kind of success stories. The first one featured a couple of examples around how to improve school meals, and Warwick was actually kind of a part of it, because one of them was the farm to school director for the state, and showed an incredible video. Isn't that wonderful? Of which Karen was there, so she was represented, and also Robert.
And Christine was feeding the goats.
Oh, she was?
Oh, I
Okay.
wanted to take those goats home.
So, yeah. And that was featured, the Farm to School Institute, which Warwick took part of. This was the inaugural one in Rhode Island, and this beautiful video showcasing for everybody else there what this process looks like and how it can get a school or a district started on kind of strategic planning and what are the benefits of that farm to school. And then in the second session was really focused a lot more on mental health. And we had someone from Central Falls, the middle school principal, talk about their cell phone free policy and how they use the Yonder pouches and what really the impacts have been around kind of the school culture and the benefits of that. We had another one talking about attendance data, and how students at a high school in North Smithfield put together a whole, because they recognized that mental health was it actually showed up as the 3rd reason why kids weren't coming to school. And how they tackled that.
Talking about that last night.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so that might be taking a look at some of these and then establishing one of those goals. The other one was South Kingstown High School, but they are looking, they partnered with the Chris Collins Foundation, and it's a student-led mental health awareness campaign. And every year through funding from the Chris Collins Foundation. They have partnered with the University of Michigan for a evidence-based program on working with students themselves, certainly not to diagnose or to be responsible for in any way, but how can they change the culture of the school so that everyone is more sensitive, understands the signs, recognizes them, and that everybody has mental health. And it can be, you know, where do you fall and where do you need support and where can you go for that? So they talked about their club and what they have done.
And God bless Generation Z, because they're out there and they're not embarrassed by it at all. And they're like, we have a right to have good mental health and to get the care that we need. And
Right.
it's important. What a big change.
Yeah, and to follow up on that, what was interesting, this foundation, it's very sad that their son had taken his own life in college. And oddly, they just were like, and they seemed like a very close family. They said, we had no idea. He was an athlete, he was a musician, he was a great student. And so how did they miss that and not know that he was struggling? But what they found out and what they learned from the University of Michigan, their center for, I'm forgetting what it is, but they have psychologists and certainly trained experts, is that young people are more likely to talk to other teens than even in a loving, caring family. So, you know, you might have the thing, oh, they must come from, you know, quote unquote, a broken family and not have someone, and you said you have expertise in mental health. So yeah. So the idea here is that, have the teens themselves, the students themselves become hopefully a protective factor for young people. So if that's something to explore, the father, Mark Collins, who was present there, they are getting more funding because it has been very successful it's everywhere now, from Charahoe High School, Woonsocket High School, South Kingstown, Narragansett. Trying to think of the other schools, they have a lot, but they're getting funding to even have more schools. So if that might be something, you definitely need to have a adult, not really a mentor, but
Are there any districts anywhere that, not necessarily here, but elsewhere, where they have mental health mentors, you know, youth who go through training, and
they do.
we used
So
to do that in the prison when we worked there.
okay, so that they do from this college, they are what's considered peer-to-peer mentors. Woonsocket, so if you want to talk to, Woonsocket has a much more, it's not just through the Collins Foundation. They have other funding that they really have a peer-to-peer model. What I think that they're very careful about is that young people don't think that they are responsible to be practitioners, that they're not there. They know where the resources are. So that's their role, that they can help and listen and then identify, have handy that they know, here's where you can go. Yeah. And then also to, again, kind of change the culture to say that, it's okay and that we all have this and what can we do to make it a better environment. So there definitely are several programs that have funding. And the other one is this Kyle Cares, which is who North Smithfield, they've been working with the Rhode Island Interscholastic League, and they had attended a session. And again, another sad story, that family lived in Massachusetts, but as well, their son, I don't know him as well, but Mr. Thompson attended the event with North Smithfield. And that's how North Smithfield High School did get some funding and support and training with their students. And then what
We have Sarah.
they did.
We have Sarah up there in Smithfield.
Yeah.
She's in Smithfield. Oh, she's in Smithfield?
Oh, Sarah Monaco?
Yeah, she
Oh.
was just, if you need anything.
Was
come
she
see
here?
me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, she was here
she's
previously.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done a lot with her.
She said, anything I can do to help you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, she's great. I don't think that they have this. They were the group, I was actually on the team with them, with Sarah. And, Rosemarie Cipriano, she was a longtime school committee member. She came, but we all went up to Vermont for the Farm to School Institute. Yeah, so we were the last Rhode Island group really that went to Vermont. And, Sarah and one of her principals in Smithfield literally interviewed, they didn't arrive till like 11 o'clock at night. They drove like late at night to get there, but we had an incredible experience similar to what you had, but we were in Vermont.
So you
So
have to stay together the whole time.
we stayed at this amazing, I'm forgetting the name of it, but the farm, right on the lake there was really quite beautiful. So it was a great setting for it. So anyway, that was, the event. So, all of the resources and all of the, slide decks and presentations are on our, website. That we have everything from the event. So that's there. So yeah, so I think if you want to order some of these materials for some of your key staff, to have available, I can send you that. And, the other thing that could be of interest, I'm just looking here that you had, this was again, all of these items were in our last e-newsletter. Health 101, Rhode Island School Health Regulations. The Department of Education is offering this and they will have someone come out, and I've now been to see it 3 different times at different wellness meetings. So if that's something of interest, it is good because it kind of grounds everyone on the committee in what are the regulations, like that's kind of the foundation, and then how do you build and what are the activities that the wellness committee can do to support and ensure that the district is meeting the regulations. And RIDE has reorganized so that now they have a Office of School Health and Wellness. So it's a little bit different. And what's great, like the Child Nutrition Program Office is now under that. Rosemary Riley-Schmott, who's the director. So that might be something if the group wanted to consider that. So it might be, I think, at this meeting, or maybe when more people are here, really focusing on, this is what I think can be challenging for this group, is that you can be all over the place. I was in Pawtucket last night and the same thing there. We had an activity really focusing on, let's get 2 or 3, if you look at like SMART goals, right? What can we do? What can we accomplish over this year? And then, focusing on those. So whether it's to do with getting right to know at, whether it's, the group that is doing the farm to school, communication is always a big one. Like it's hard in a larger district. There are good things going on, but do people even know about it, and are aware? So.
Have focus groups been done to determine which other criterias of programs to be done?
So you mean like with stakeholders throughout the district? Like,
Well, whether it be the teachers or the students or.
yeah, some districts have done with their staff and where they've focused. So some districts really have said educator wellness is really important. And RIDE, that was also one of the presentations. RIDE now has this new platform all around educator wellness. And that could be something that if someone came out to do this, to focus on and explain a little bit more, if that was something that this committee wanted to focus on. So, yeah, I think identifying
By the needs.
what the
Right.
priorities, what their
Right.
needs are. And there's lots of data, right? That can, whether you look at survey works, whether you look at, what the needs are for students, but also too, this committee has one of the statutory responsibilities is educator wellness too. So I've been blabbing a lot, but can I just finish and then I can
No,
finish?
please.
Okay, so I brought this whole box here, and I may have talked about this, but for those who don't know, we have a program called Recess Rocks in Rhode Island. This is the 10th year. Blue Cross Blue Shield is the sole funder of it, so it's free. We've now done trainings with over 150 Rhode Island elementary schools, and this started 10 years ago because we were hearing more and more that, kids weren't getting recess. It was very hard, but they needed instructional minutes, or kids were getting in trouble out on the playground. COVID even exacerbated it. Kids kind of don't know how to play. The playgrounds look different. Even in a district like Warwick, you could have, different playgrounds, whether one is just all blacktop and one has big fields. So we work with Playworks New England, and it's a 2-day training program that elementary schools go through with a team of adults, not the kids, principal, PE teacher, and then others who supervise recess. And not just learning games, but learning strategies on group management, on engaging kids, making it so it's safe, that it's inclusive, all kids are going to be active and have fun, and that they're kind. So when all schools, all 13 Warwick schools have been through the program, and so we then created these banners that can either be put outside the school or inside, and just recognizing, you see here, that the power of play is alive here, and we have been trained to make recess at Mrs. Holloman safe, active, inclusive, and kind. And it's in English and Spanish. And, you know, some schools put them outside, some put them in the gym, but just to kind of let everyone there know, parents and everyone, that play is important for little kids. So all of your elementary schools have these.
It's important for all kids.
It is.
And for adults
It's
too.
important
And for adults, too.
We just need to learn how to do that.
So the training, Playworks is the organization that we work with.
Who did they train inside the school?
So it's a team, so it was the principal of every school, the PE teacher, and then others like recess supervisors.
Okay. I was just curious because my kids will come home and say, oh, there's just aides out there and they don't care what we do. When we tell them something, they just ignore it. So I'm just curious, like, what the aides part of the training?
Well, I can go back
I
and
know,
look.
that's the thing,
I
'cause
will
the
say,
principal, the PE teacher, like, they're not outside at
What
recess.
school?
Sherman.
Okay.
So sometimes, you know,
yeah, it depends on who they could send. I mean, we just say to the principal, you choose. Sometimes it's harder. I will say, because I remember going to one of the trainings and they definitely were recess supervisors. And what
okay, yeah.
was fun, and I don't remember exactly at Sherman, but I remember them saying, which is true, like, this is just cool. We've never gotten trained like for our job. Like they felt good about
Yeah.
it. Like, wow, we were actually getting training and helping us, like, you know, how do you get the attention of kids? How do you get them, you know, to try this again? How do you set the playground up so that they're not just, you know, fun? You know, what's a great example? And we had something called Active Indoor Recess Week, and Holloman won, and one of the
That's my school.
oh, okay, so and who was so Sabrina Antonelli.
That's no.
No.
Oh, Norwood, sorry,
Okay.
sorry, okay, I'm wrong there, sorry, I think I had, because that was the one that I opened at Norwood. Norwood won, and one of the prizes that we did was I reached out to some of the colleges and universities, and it was Providence College for them, and we had all these student athletes who came and played with the kids at recess and talked to them about the importance of being a good sport and doing good in school and being a good, you know, what it looks like to be a student athlete. And it was so fun that day. The whole staff all wore PC stuff and black, and they had a big sign. And I don't know who had more fun, you know, the kids who loved it, or the college athletes loved playing with the kids. And we had a couple of winners. So one in Pawtucket, it was Bryant, and that was really a lot of fun. But yeah, Warwick was the site for one of the visits. But there was a great, I don't know what her role was, a teacher, I guess, but she was kind of the recess champion, in charge of everything. And even just the way they bring out the equipment and help set up games. And, you know, so it's a whole kind of, how do you structure it? And some people say, oh, you shouldn't do that. It's supposed to be like free play. And it's not telling kids what they have to do. It's setting it up so that they're all
Yeah.
going
So
to
they
take
are
part
doing
in
that
something.
now? All the elementaries?
They've all been trained, you know, I'm not going to say exactly. I know sometimes, you know, depending on staff, but they all have gone through the training. Yeah.
Recess is just difficult from the nursing part of it.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
they only have so many minutes. I mean, I would love to be able to even get out there to see what goes on.
Yeah.
But I can't because I'm doing.
Because I think it's just
Yeah,
their
like I'm
kids.
picky.
I think it's
Right.
only
Yeah,
their
yeah.
kids.
So I'm doing that, I'm doing meds, and then the injuries that come in, it's like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Like,
Well,
I-
the point of this is supposed to help reduce those
Right,
injuries.
Well, they only have 20
because-
minutes to let
Right,
loose.
right,
So
exactly.
then they trip and skin their knee, you know?
First, we like make them wolf down their meal,
Yes.
which I just think is criminal. And then we set them up 20
Yeah.
minutes, get them wound up, and then they have to come back in.
Yeah, there's not enough time to do it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a tough one, and we've talked about this for a long time, because what do? you have, you know, you need so many instructional minutes, you have like, unless the day is longer, how do you fit it all in? Some schools do have, optional minutes. I know that I hear that teachers can take their kids out, you know, onto the playground.
Yeah, my kids do that.
Do they? Yeah, yeah. So,
And that's like a big thing, and they're
yeah.
excited with it.
Yeah.
but-
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, lunch is a problem, because I know my kids, they like getting school lunch, but they don't want to wait in line, because by the time they sit down, they only have 5 minutes to eat. So I think that affects the kids who are free, who need those meals,
right.
because they have to stand in that line every day and wait to get served, and then those kids are rushing to eat, you know, because they don't have as much time as the kids that bring their lunch from home.
Right.
Um,
Is there any, I mean, I just look at like, I don't know how they call the kids up, or like, is there any way to streamline that or to
Some
look at
schools,
the serving
yeah, like
lines?
some
to-
schools will stagger the classes as they come in. I know, I think Park does that, Park Elementary, they stagger, so like one class will come in, they'll get served, and then the next class will come in, so they don't all get in this big, long line.
Right.
But, and then some schools, what works really well is they'll have like a lunch aid right at the line, and they'll say, this one order this number, this one order that number,
To speed it.
to speed it. And then some schools, they don't have any system, and the kids are like, what did I order? I can't remember. You
So,
know, so then it takes forever.
I mean, that could be, take a look
Yeah.
at, because you probably know what system works best.
Mhm.
And I know every school can do things but to share that, you know, and maybe make like a little training manual, you know, just put something together. This is what works well. We've
For each
noticed we
school.
want all kids to, you know, have as much time to eat and to play.
Mhm.
And these are some tips on what you might
Getting them
do.
through quicker.
to
Well,
get
we were,
through.
when we were at Norwood for
Mhm.
Apple Crunch Day, they have a very good system.
Yes,
And
their
it's
system is
through.
perfect.
Really excellent.
So they have a teacher that not a teacher, but an aide that sits right before the steam table, and they hand them a colored chip. And then they just hand it right to you weren't there,
I
Kelly was
wasn't
there, Kelly
yeah,
was there.
Yeah,
And they just hand the chip right to the server, and they know exactly, and it moves quickly. But it depends on the size of the school, how many lunches they have. Some schools don't have enough lunches.
right,
They might
right.
only
Well,
have
but so maybe
two, so
this
they're,
is something,
you
we should
know.
have 13 schools. Like maybe taking a look at what are some of the, you know, techniques that work, and then just presenting them like bullet
Yeah.
point, here are the things, and then just we're offering these up, you know, because, you know.
Like in a
want kids to
principal,
have-
don't you guys have like principal meetings? Yeah. That could be something like Kayla. I think does
Yeah.
Kayla attend those?
Yes, sometimes.
Yeah, could be something that she could present.
Yeah.
Right, I think
A
that's,
couple like model schools that work really well.
We get Patty involved.
Yeah.
We always,
But yeah,
you know,
just
we have
not
the
enough
building
time to
aids.
eat.
Right.
Yeah.
Patty's great, by the way, I just want to
Yeah.
shout out, she was the one that organized the whole training, and it took a while, like, it was 2 different groups of schools, but she did it all. And, and then I mentioned too, at least that's what she said, she'd like for these to be, I don't know if every principal would have to be there, but to have it recognized at a school committee meeting, that they all did take
Yeah,
part and then show, so I think the December meeting is what she said.
I was just gonna say, we have a lot of, building aids, but for some reason this year, we had a big turnover, and it's very
Yeah.
difficult, because they don't know the kids.
Right.
And, you know, so the lunches last year, well, we're at, following, we're here. It's just that they're all there's only a couple of building aids that are the same ones. They knew every kid, so it did move quickly because they knew them.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I don't know if they have trouble hiring. I'm not really sure, but it's really difficult. And sometimes the kids, they're so wound up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
It's really-
and quite disrespectful, honestly,
Oh,
to these people. It's unbelievable. Like, I'm down there because I have to run down there sometimes because I have a couple of diabetics that they do resets and then they go to lunch. So I'm downstairs as they come in, so I can catch these kids because they're buying lunch and I gotta count the carbs and do my thing, and it's wild.
yeah, well, and maybe they haven't, okay, so
do
here's
they do
another thing,
recess first?
Certain ones do
yeah.
have recess, then they come in and they come running.
They're still
And
like
they-
crazy with energy.
Yeah,
Because that's
Yep.
one of the things I know that in the Recess Rocks training, they have just simple little things that you do to like get you like transition from being crazy on the playground to coming in. Now, what you're saying is there's been a changeover in staff.
Mm.
So maybe we can, again, talk with Patty, and because all of them, it was last year when they got trained, is there something on, like, if that's an issue, just putting something together, or actually Playworks has some videos on some of these. I know that they don't really have time. It's not like they get like PD time, your aides, but maybe if they could be shared, do you know what I mean? With the principal to
Yeah.
say, share it with them and see if they can learn some little, because sometimes it's just little techniques like behavior
Right.
management,
And I
group
think,
management.
honestly, I think all of them this year, a couple of the ones we had have now moved inside, but they're all new building aids for the outside recess, so
Mhm.
they're
They
all
didn't
new.
get the training.
Nope,
Right,
no, because they're all new to me. So I know they didn't take part in that, so if there is something they could, you know,
right. Yeah,
watch
because
or
it's
just
just, right,
something to cut
yeah.
down on the.
So it's kind of, group management and transition. When I started by saying like our, e-newsletter that we have, the school wellness spotlight, and I'm trying to remember, actually, I think it was in Smithfield. It was in Smithfield, like Old County, but they actually, I happened to be out there and I saw they had like, you know, like the little white lights that are on the cord. They had it all around their server. And they had them, they were colored ones, and they could switch it with a remote from red to green to yellow. And they took some time at the beginning and kind of trained the kids and told them, but instead of yelling at them to be quiet. So it was like red was no talking at all. Green was talking at, you know, a nice indoor voice, and yellow, I forget what it was. But they were like, we didn't want to be yelling all the time, but they kind of trained them. You have to look up, and it was pretty, you know, clear all over here. So that, because the lunch period was, it's a big school and it was getting like too much. And some kids can't eat if it's too crazy
Yeah.
and they get anxious, you know, and some kids, so, you know, just those, it can be some like little things to help, because again, we're not gonna, it's hard to make it a day longer and everything.
One of the things that some of our schools use are the clap. You
Yeah.
know, that one? Yeah, that's pretty cool. How the kids do it and then
Yeah.
everybody settles.
Right.
It's really pretty.
Right, they
Amazing.
know what it is, yeah.
I think just the loud, you know, it is loud. Yeah, you worry about kids choking, you know,
Right.
like who can hear, who's paying. You need a lot of ice at lunch. You really do.
Yeah,
No, there's a gang in there, so it's kind of, you know, little kids need help opening everything up, so it does. You know, it's such a short little,
right. How
Okay.
many Title I schools do you have?
3.
It's more than that. 5, I think, 5
Five.
elementaries, yeah.
We have Norwood, Open Beach,
Oxy too, right?
Hoxie.
Because there are like, it's called SNAP Ed, so it's education. They can only work in Title I schools, and they do a lot of their work, like in Providence, you know, Tucket, Central Falls, Woonsocket, but they're now kind of looking to support some of the, you know, urban ring communities. But they'll do like a, more focused around nutrition education, but doing a workshop for lunch aids. And again, that's a group that they don't tend to get a lot. So they're kind of like going, all right, I'm doing my best here to like kind of put out fire, you know what I mean? Like, but not really having a lot of training. I don't know, the school probably provides some training, but anyway, with some of those things to, help. I know that they did it in Providence about what kind of language used to get kids to make healthy choices, and to be open to eating, you know, things that are served, the fruits and vegetables, et cetera.
Like asparagus.
So that might be something, so. But I think those are two good things I can look into, but if, I think for the lunch to have Kayla, like you guys probably know what's working best, but yeah, anything to
Move it along.
move it along, yeah, yeah.
Up the carrot.
I, you know, when I saw that, I didn't even really remember what it was. Assuming it was from last month, so let me look at that, because all of these things.
The personnel dressed up as the carrot, was it?
Could be.
We did have that.
We do have a carrot costume.
Yep.
I don't know who's gonna wear our costumes. Christine has to get, shoulder surgery. It's next week, so she'll be out for a little while. She usually wears our costumes.
Oh, was she the one in the photo?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
she's gonna be out for a little while. She's getting shoulder surgery, so. Have to find someone new.
Well,
She does a great job.
Yeah.
I shall look, Karen, will
then we have yoga for educators, which is kind of cool, which we discussed a little bit at the breakfast. Somebody
I don't think. It's, that, what we included was, we'll have to look and see where it's with Shri Yoga, Allison Bologna. You may know from Channel 10. She runs the Shri, here it is.
I wanna do puppies. Puppies and yoga, that's what we need here.
Absolutely.
A lot of
So when
schools
we do
now
yoga
have
for educators,
puppies.
let's bring in the puppies. They
They
have
can
that
teach us
somewhere
how to do
locally.
downward dog.
Yeah,
I'll donate mine. Have a puppy.
you have a puppy?
Yeah, golden doodle.
Oh, good
Yeah.
luck. I have a
Baby.
golden doodle.
Baby.
She's almost 8 and she's still wild.
Oh, don't
She
tell me
is?
that.
Oh,
Don't tell me
yes.
that.
Oh,
Oh, yes.
I thought they were like good dogs. Like,
Well,
Yeah,
they're good in
and
the,
sweet. but
oh, they're very sweet. They love children. They
Yeah.
love you to hug them. They love to be next to you, but they're wild.
Right.
They love to play.
Oh.
They're wild.
really?
Jumping
Yeah.
all over the window, barking
They
at
have more energy
UPS
than
every
anyone
time they
should be.
drive
They get the
by.
zoomies.
Yes, still, and she's 8.
Oh, boy.
It's
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah,
Good
usually
luck.
by then.
I would never get.
I'm trying to think, because definitely districts
You
have
are?
like
Oh,
these.
I was like you, I was like, they're so great, they're so
Support
good with
dogs
kids. And
that
then
they
I was
bring
like,
into
oh
the
my
schools.
God.
Yeah, they
everything.
had that.
Charaho
Yeah,
does.
like,
the
when
other
you had-
ones
we had
here,
some,
yeah.
yeah.
Um,
And the
And
fire
I
would
can't,
jump
this
with their
won't
dogs.
load. So I can't even look, see, I don't know why I'm not remembering what the carrot award was.
The support dogs go through a certification program.
Yeah.
So there's a certification program for CCRO. So you can't just bring a dog in typically.
No.
There's a certification for emotional support dogs and mental health support dogs.
Yeah.
But they're trained to come into schools and hospitals and
Yeah.
nursing.
We used to have a guy that did reptiles
Oh,
and bringing them into, and the kids loved it. The kids weren't squirmish about it at all, and he like introduced them like they're people too. and-
They had, the PTA puts on those things and brings in they bring them in,
Yeah.
let them hold the snake and.
I like the reading with the dogs. They do that at the library, but the kids love it.
Yeah. And the kids read to the dogs.
Yeah, yeah, and the dog just lays there.
Oh, here we
Might be
go.
Something nice.
Okay, let's see. Oh, the carrot award. Okay. Now I remember. It was recognizing her. This was with the Rhode Island Association of Nutrition and Dietetics. And that it's their, they call it a 24 carat. And it was awarded to this year. It was a school educator, and she's a, Pawtucket has community schools, so she's the community school resource coordinator. And we just put it in there to recognize her. So talked about, and here they talk about the SNAP Ed and FNEP, these two federal programs that, as I said, do nutrition education in communities that are under-resourced, and they did work with them. So that's what that was about. And here's the free educator, and it's Tuesdays at 4:30. It is in Pawtucket. It's at the Shri Studio, which is pretty beautiful. Yeah. And they were, prior to her, she rehabbed this whole new space. Are you familiar? Yeah. And prior to that, they used to do it at a few different community yoga studios who offered up their studios. So they were kind of in different locations around the state. But since the Pawtucket new Shri location is open, that's where she has it. So, but essentially it's free for any educator who comes there to do any classes.
Thank you. Moving right along. Rhode Island Apple Crunch Day.
So, Robert isn't here. Has everyone here met Robert? Have you been here before?
No.
This is your first time, okay. So Robert is our chef manager and he, kind of heads up our local offerings for the district and organizes what we're gonna order, what kind of events are we gonna have. So every year there's an event called Rhode Island Apple Crunch Day, basically to honor apples. It's, National Farm to School Month as well. So what we do is, he makes up apple chips. We slice apples. We get lots of volunteers. The kids can take a whole apple and then, they talk about apples. We talk about what farm they came from. We had RIDE there this year, representatives from RIDE, from DEM, from the USDA. We were supposed to have the governor, but he couldn't come, unfortunately.
He had an issue with the bridge.
He had the bridge issues. But basically they talk about the apples and the kids get excited. We have a couple of people that dress up as apples for this event. And then we announce that it's time to crunch into the apple and everybody at the same time. And then they, they get more apple chips and stickers and little fun things like that. So it was a big event. I mean, apples, but
Kids love it.
the kids loved it. They loved, the costumes and just something different happening at their school and talking about, where local food comes from.
Like a lot of them had never had apple chips like that before. And that was,
Yeah,
at first they were like, well, then, all right, I'll try with my friends.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, these are really good.
Like
Can I have
candy.
more?
Takes a long time. It took Robert all day to make those. Takes a long time. But yeah, so, and we're trying to we did an event in September and then we're trying to do another one at Oakland Beach, but we are having a little tough time getting a response from the principal there. So I'm not sure if that will end up happening.
You need help?
Maybe. I don't know.
Let me know.
If we want to try another school or if we want to, I think you sent him 2 emails now. So I'll ask
Maybe we
him.
need to make
He copied
make a
me,
visit.
but he didn't respond. So. Yeah, some
He's
principals
new,
are
so
really
he may just
willing.
be overwhelmed, so.
Yeah, some principals are really,
Check-in.
we do everything. They don't have to do anything. We do it all for them, but just depends. I think what's going on at the school. So that was Apple Crunch Day.
Thank you. Our farm to seed to school report, has to be tabled today because, Kayla and Sarah and those folks couldn't make it. So hopefully we'll come back to that next month.
I can
It's a
say
great
we
initiative.
did meet at Hoxie to look at the land there to see where they were gonna put in a garden. They did find, a couple spots. The best spot was kind of at the back of the school where the dumpsters actually sit. We want to move the dumpsters away, but there's a nice big grassy sunny area. And I know they're, in communications with CTC to, build some vegetable gardens, like out of wood.
And the kids are gonna design, the 5th graders are in
Yeah.
charge of doing the design and doing kind of a STEM project to get it
So they
going.
did say they could help us, but we don't know yet if that would be materials or if it will just be building it and we have to get the materials. So that's kind of in the works. And then I know at the Rhode Island Healthy Schools Coalition breakfast, they're looking into purchasing hydroponic gardens. One for Hoxie, and I know the deadline is Friday to get
To get
$1,000 off.
discount.
So they're meeting with, I forget his name.
Wish Patty was here, cause she was real interested.
Yeah, I forget the guy's name, Ben. I think his name is
Yeah,
Ben.
yeah, Ben.
They have a meeting with him on Thursday to talk
Okay.
about it and fill out the paperwork. So I know sounds like they're definitely gonna purchase one for Hoxie and
Oh, cool.
maybe another one. So that's in the works too.
They're really cool. They're like this big standalone thing.
Yeah,
They can grow a lot of stuff in there.
yeah, the kids will like that.
Yeah. And you knew all the centerpieces were grown.
They were all hydroponic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually,
that was
mine's-
funny.
mine's in
The
my
lettuce.
kitchen.
Yeah. Oh, you took one. Good. Yeah. Yeah. But they were great. I was at a meeting with them and I was like thinking about this and I'm like, any chance you could grow? He's like, yeah, I can do it in my house. I mean, it really like just weeks before and it was just tons of it.
Yeah.
that he grew.
Can they
Mhm.
grow stuff other than like lettuce? I didn't know. I
Oh,
didn't
they
get
did
that
lettuce,
far.
they
Yeah,
did herbs,
yeah,
they did
herbs,
flowers. Just
Mhm.
Can they grow like vegetables?
Oh, yeah.
Like
probably beans, like I think certain,
bush,
Radishes.
like bush vegetables,
exactly,
okay,
yeah, yeah,
that's cool.
yeah, radishes, because,
Because they're so easy.
Yeah,
They grow so
yeah.
fast.
Kids don't like radishes.
And the kids, the kids.
They just
the
have a
kids like that
non-kid
they
flavor to
grow.
them.
They just, a lot of
They're
kids don't like
pretty.
babies.
Yeah.
The watermelon radishes, oh, they're
This
so
is
pretty.
watermelon
Yeah.
radish.
Yeah,
They
it's so
go,
pretty,
"Ooh,
like,
this
and then they
tastes like
bite it and it's
watermelon."
like, tricked ya. So, yeah, there's some stuff happening with that, but say no more.
It's pretty cool stuff.
and some of it was so great having these, I mean, apples is pretty, like, kids will eat apples, but some of it is just exposing them to, like, you can try something new, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
just look at it, taste it, know, like, hear what it is, lick it, or not even, you know what I mean, just to, so even if they're not actually eating it. Do you have any FFVP schools?
We do, we
Yeah.
have quite a few.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because that's the whole point of that program too, is that they're just gonna try different things. So this is called the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. It's all funded from the USDA, the government. And, how many times a week, did they get it once a week?
I think at Sherman, I think they're getting it 4 or 5 days now.
Really?
There was like a ton of money, so
Right.
schools that they should give us free lunches instead of fresh
know.
fruit and veggie, it'd be so much more effective. But yeah, they gave them dragon fruit the other day.
Yeah.
Isn't that
I
crazy?
haven't even had that.
Just give us free meals.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's
Just
exotic.
give
I
us the
know.
free meals, forget the
It's just a different program,
Samples.
right? I know.
Well,
This
like
is the
last
way
year, we had
that are-
asparagus, kids tried asparagus.
Yeah.
But we do carrots 2 or 3 ways, and that's what, kids are willing to try carrots.
Yeah. And they're willing to try it at school. When we do this program, we've done training, which we can talk about this local food ambassador program where we do a training for adults, like mostly parents, to go in to help, because you don't have the staff to go in on days to pass out things. But they'll be like, oh, I'd love to do it. My kid won't eat it. I know that. My kid's the pickiest eater. And surprisingly,
Yeah.
they get in there, and when all their little friends, they're going and you make it a fun thing and then they're like, okay, I'll try it.
Yeah.
You know, and surprisingly, they like it a lot of the
Yeah,
times.
it's really cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. We are still looking for, whole business members, participants for the committee. Today, we have a lot more people, for those who haven't been before. This is just a really off day. I haven't seen this few people in this meeting in forever, I think. But we are looking to get students involved. We have a school nurse teacher, but we would love to have more, more staff representation, more, community representation, so.
Could the district put a post on their Facebook page that we're looking for people,
Yeah, we can put a blast out to everyone.
yeah,
too.
that we're looking for community partners to join our wellness committee?
We can-
And it could be teachers, it could be, anyone that's involved in the community.
We can blast that information
Do
out.
that.
Yeah, we can have that.
You know somebody?
Yeah, we actually do have somebody that posts on Facebook. So it's actually not me.
No, but you-
Ooh, who does the Facebook page?
So our curriculum director,
Mhm.
Lisa Schultz.
Okay,
is the,
Lisa.
Monitors that. Is in charge of posting stuff.
Okay, I'm just curious.
She's your go-to in case there's any information you want
Okay.
to send out.
Mhm.
And, just want to open, as I do every meeting, I try to open it up to brainstorming, have a little brainstorming session if people have ideas or thoughts or comments about anything, so. Feel free.
I'll make a comment about play in general and just movement. I'm here just to advocate for more movement and especially outside time. And I don't know if this came up in the training with the recess aids, but I feel that we assume kids are going to hurt themselves and that kids aren't like aware of danger out there. And one of the things I teach, because I teach this movement system and I teach trainers and we talk about the risk danger matrix. I think that would be so helpful. It may already be covered in this training, but there's risk and danger, and there's like low risk activities, medium and high, and there's dangerous consequences potentially. So we always use the example of if someone's balancing on a 2x4 and it's on the floor, depending on how their balancing ability is, that could be like a medium risk activity. But if it's on the floor, low danger. We put that balance beam or that 2x4, between two buildings, we have the same risk in theory, but the danger is significantly higher. And I feel like from what I've witnessed, I was a mentor for like 10 years and I always met my mentee at lunch. So I'm very familiar with like the lunch and recess scene in elementary schools. And I felt like kids were getting called out and told not to do things. It's the classic, you're gonna fall, break your leg. Just in my experience, I have 3 kids and I've watched thousands of kids play in my gym, doing some pretty crazy stunts for some of them. And kids are very aware of risk and danger. Maybe when they're 4, it's not as astute as it is when they're 9, but I think by the time they hit a certain age, they're pretty aware of their ability. And I feel like we stifle their play through this.
Not adults.
Yeah. Well, adults avoid it altogether. And I think we see a kid swing on a monkey bar and we think, oh my God, they're going to fall, because maybe that would happen to us. But kids are pretty good at judging their ability. And I feel like there's some opportunity there to provide better training to create a less tense environment in recess. And my son tells me stories that seems like the rules and restrictions of recess keep getting more invasive. And that was going to actually be my next question is, are there any like standards or expectations for behavior at recess, or is it sort of just subject to the people working there, like their discretion?
I wish Patty was here for that discussion.
She oversees elementary.
Yeah, she oversees elementary and has experience in that area.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know kids get hurt. Like I see it all the time at my house, at my gym.
So you're kind of curious, like, what are the lunch aids? Because they're lunch aids. What kind of training are they getting, and what are they
They get
being
nothing.
told?
Right. They get
So
nothing.
that's kind of what I get from my kids, is that they're just off talking in the corner and they'll say, so and so's not playing with me. Go play with John, like that's about all they get, and so.
They don't know how to teach the kids to play, and they don't have any experience in group play or any of that.
Yeah, I don't even think they're noticing the kids are doing dangerous things.
Yeah, what I hear.
I don't
is
know.
My kids are being told you can't play football or you can't play this with
Oh,
this
they
group
are.
of kids because it's too dangerous. But
We were never told that as kids.
yeah, I mean, we played
Yeah.
muckle.
Yeah.
Well, don't
What's
you
that,
think,
like
I
wrestling?
mean,
It was kind of like football and wrestling.
Yeah, like
That's
wrestling.
the jackpot where the
Yeah,
person throws the football and 5 people try to catch it and everyone collides together.
I mean, I got yelled at by a lunch lady as an adult because I jumped off a slide when we were playing follow the leader when I was mentoring,
Yeah.
and I got scolded.
I mean, I think that is
I think
like
that
a
is-
societal problem, like that we don't give kids autonomy and then they don't learn. Like they can't
Right.
figure out spatial boundaries because they're never allowed to kind of experience it. And it does have consequences when we're not.
Oh, it was the whole cycle of that. If you're told not to move, you don't move, then
Right.
you get
Right.
unfit, and then you're afraid to move because you're not fit, and then you just don't move, and here you go.
Right. So it's where is finding the right, because I get it. You're there going, please. I don't
Yeah,
want
she
more
doesn't
people
want him to
coming
get
down
hurt.
So
If they
it's
get hurt,
like,
they get
Yeah,
hurt.
no, I mean,
What kid, every
Yeah.
kid should break a
sometimes they're
limb
not
at some
even,
point.
they're not even really hurt. It's
Yeah.
like they don't even want to be outside. It's like, what are you doing? Because now, like, I'm on the first floor and they're going outside. So if they get brought up to me for some little ridiculous thing, they're like trying to get out of recess, and then I can't get them back down.
so
Because
they
you have to
don't
walk them
want to
down.
be at
A lot of
recess.
them don't want
Some
See,
to.
that's
don't like,
like-
wanna be
some
in
don't
recess.
like
I
physical
know.
activity.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
So
They
some
don't
of
like
them just get like,
sports.
oh, I
Some of
just bumped into
I
so and so.
know.
It's like,
But
ah,
this
come
is
on.
what the purpose of this, and again, it's a 2-day training and a lot of information is given. I'm just looking to see who was,
I just
the
think it
team
would be
members.
helpful if one of the official, like, one of the administrator or whoever like is in charge, like a PE teacher or a principal, like one of those people is outside at recess. one of the people that did receive the training, and then you can still have other aides, you know what I mean?
I'm sure Jeff would agree. The best part of my day was covering the lunchrooms and cover all 4 lunches. You
Yeah.
get to interact with the kids.
Yeah.
When I
But
mentioned
those-
recess would be the same way.
Yeah.
Those are the schools that operate the best. Like for me, for lunch, if I go in and there's a principal in there, it just runs smoothly. And then other schools, you never see the principal and there's issues there.
Okay.
So I think it's the same with recess. Like someone who receives the training should be outside.
Okay.
You know?
And the whole thing too was setting it up so that those kids that aren't comfortable, like some of and they're like old, like Foursquare is a game they always set up. Like
Mm.
kids often didn't even know how to play it. They didn't know it. But teaching them and that they can then be leaders and how to include everyone and so that they all have something to do. Because it is true today. Some kids don't know how to play. They don't know what to do. So they just stand there
Mhm.
and they probably are happier to go to the nurse and sit on a couch or whatever.
I had like a few kids today trying to get out of gym. Could you write a note and say that I hurt my knee? I'm like, what? Where'd you hurt your knee? Yesterday at home. It's like, no, I can't. You know, they just want, or they're, I don't know.
Son, Warren Epstein's mother.
Well,
You know,
those are probably the ones that go home and just stare at a screen all the
right,
rest
they
of
don't
the
want to
day.
move. Some of them.
Which is your school again?
Sherman.
I don't know who, I have all the names of
Yeah.
the people.
We have a new principal too.
Oh,
as
yeah.
well.
1, 2, 3,
She
4,
seems
5,
pretty
6.
good.
So there's
Yeah.
7.
She seems, yeah,
There's a nice play area there too.
we do, yeah. We go there and play sometimes, just, out of school too.
Well, again, I would say, we've talked about a lot of things, but maybe to focus on a couple of them and then really think about what can we do to ensure what, supports can we give them to give them better guidance, like at recess, or bring back some of the things that were shared from the Playworks training, or find out
Like maybe even the PE
which are
teacher,
schools.
maybe they could give the lunch aides, a 15-minute, training
Mm.
on recess, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And letting the kids play freely and, as long as they're not picking up sticks and shaking at each other. But what if the PE teacher taught a 15-minute abbreviation of,
Right.
Yeah,
That's a
so there's
great
gotta
idea.
be,
Yeah.
I'm sure you see common injuries related to recess. And for what we see at the gym, kids sometimes fall, they put their hand down the wrong spot, they
Mm.
hurt their wrist or hurt their arm. But there's, we train our staff, if you see a kid doing this, you should get ready to spot the kid.
that's
or
when you should stop. Yeah.
When we see kids elevated, jumping out for something, that's potentially dangerous because if they don't secure their grip, it could be an ugly fall. So that's just an example of one thing we teach our staff to look for at the gym. Granted, we have kids who are very capable of doing that, but if you have someone who you're not sure about, that's where you should get over there, or have them do it from a lower height first and then allow them to do it. But there's just certain things that you just see now when you're watching kids play that you go cut that off before it gets worse. Definitely kids playing with sticks. That's probably
They like to do that.
But I feel like
But also,
physical
isn't it
things.
normal for kids to get scraped up and break a
Yeah.
arm or a leg?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's
Normal.
part of the initiation of
Mine broke
being
a
a kid.
collarbone at recess.
You know? I broke my arm twice
Yeah.
That's never broke.
Well,
playing.
I
was
I
here.
met with some gym
She
teachers
was
last
running down
week,
that hill
and I was
at
sharing with
recess
them
because they were
what-
here.
what I teach
And she
kids.
fell.
We teach kids how to fall. It's the first thing we teach kids, how to fall backwards, how to fall forwards. And if you know how to fall, then things become a lot less dangerous because you can
Makes a
get out
huge
of it.
difference.
So I feel like that should be part of our phys ed curriculum, how to fall.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing?
Sure,
I'm
of
gonna
course.
date myself, but in the 90s, I was assistant professor at Brick, and we used to teach integrated cooperative phys ed movement. So when I see bringing movement back into the classroom, my eyes were like, wait a minute, you did this. You used to teach us in the 90s. What happened to it, right? So whether it be at recess or in arts or studies, reading, there's always a way to implement movement. So they're not crazy at recess because their body's been moving throughout the day. as they're learning and you're integrating that movement. And yeah, trust falls and things like that become part of the classroom and they learn it there. So then when they're outside, they can play and they can move around and enjoy. And then when you have the cooperative education and you have these games all set up, right? So what did I learn in the classroom that I can take in the recess area? And education continues even though they're having a lot of fun in recess. And we used to teach this in the 90s and I'm sitting back like, oh gosh, what happened to it? You know, it really worked well. And that class was all those that were going through education to be elementary school teachers it was mandatory. You had to take that class. So they knew when they graduated how to implement movement into the classroom. Well, I taught it for 8 years. You know, so I'm just wondering, you know, is that another area which can be redesigned? All for the kids, right?
And I do think that
Yeah,
I think that what you'd mentioned with just training the staff and then also training the administrators and training the central office, because one thing that kind of floats through our mind all the time is potential litigation and, you know, anybody that goes to your gym, my kids went there, we saw an assumption of risk. And so if they get injured, it's a little bit different on the playground, right? So we even have situations where our playgrounds are used after hours and a kid gets injured and they're suing the district for just having a slide, you know, or having a swing or whatever. So I think that promulgates fear from letting them perhaps kind of play and do that, what we just talked about. But that shouldn't be the end all. I think to your point, we need to train folks to be able to spot safe versus unsafe. We need to, because it's too easy, is it, to say, let's not play at all because we're afraid to get sued.
Because we're such a litigious
Correct.
society.
So I think you're right. I think it, you know, with more knowledge becomes less fear of the risk involved with letting the kids play and be physically active. But there is in the school department that very fine balance between litigation and
But our kids shouldn't suffer because.
correct.
But
society
don't
is so
forget, you always have
litigious.
train the trainer programs.
Nope, I
So
agree.
those
We
aren't
need to do
often
that.
utilized either.
Yep.
You know,
I
who
think
wants to be the
that's-
designee depends on who's willing to see the,
Yeah.
right, the
Just it's
outcome of it.
understanding and learning.
The other thing too is like, once the weather turns, I know my kids, they'll have indoor recess for months because it's snowy or whatever. But when I worked in Situate schools, they told them, bring your snow boots,
Yeah.
bring your,
We were out
We're
every
going
day and
outside
there
for
was a
recess,
monsoon when
and
I was a
Often
kid.
that's
If
less
it's-
about the kids than the adults who
Yeah.
don't want to, you know, I
Yeah.
hate to say
Yeah.
it, but like.
so that's a problem. Like, they're doing indoor recess for weeks and months at a time in the district. And I think it causes a little bit of depression for the kids.
No, 'cause they
At least
use the
my kids
fresh
say,
air and stuff, yeah.
And then
oh,
we had-
mom, we had indoor
indoor.
recess again today. Well, the snow is still there, but I don't know. I think we should make them bring boots. I mean, other districts are doing it.
No, they
Yeah,
used
They
to,
definitely are.
snowsuits, pants, whatever.
And then you do have to then have some kind of, and I know districts have done, have a drive so that if a kid forgets it or they don't have, I don't know how many you have here, but there were in Middletown, which they had the War College as part of there. So they had a lot of kids. They just show up for 3 months who are from like Sri Lanka or Singapore, like they don't have anything.
Never saw snow.
Because their parents, yeah.
Yeah.
And, but the one time he's retired now, but he was just an active, but he would have the custodian shovel around the school and he would lead almost like they were like in the Marines and he made a little song. He was like, up with those knees. And the principal would lead the kids loved it. And then they would have like once a week and he'd be like big time snow, like you could go and make swirl forts and,
Yeah,
you
they're
know, have all
preppers.
your stuff, but I know. Well, I will say with Recess Rocks every year, and maybe we do a bigger promotion here and talk about, we have what's called Active Indoor Recess Week and we've done it virtually and in person, but how do you take some of those games so they're not just sitting in their seat that can make them active without, you know,
Anything can be turned into an
Having-
activity.
Yeah.
right.
Really.
Learning opportunity.
But if it's sunny
You
out,
hop, 2 plus
Right, if
2.
it's, well, I'm
If
just
it's sunny
talking
out,
about
they
a
should-
temperature.
they should have to get them outside.
Right, yeah. And
Even
you
if
can
it
look
means
at- I don't know
plowing
what
the blacktop out in the
Right.
back or whatever, just to get them
And
outside.
I think the ride reg is 32 degrees actually.
Yeah.
So if it's, but in the wintertime, how many days are even over 32 degrees with sun, you know,
A
just
lot.
because it's winter doesn't mean it's
A
all.
lot, yeah.
Right.
It's not because of the temp, it's because they don't want them walking in snow.
Yeah,
And ice.
yeah. Well, I've
Wow,
heard too,
because
it's
they're
like,
gonna go
well,
home and walk on snow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Friend's house and walk on snow.
And give them good skills, but on that note, I need to,
Yeah.
they're overtime, which I don't usually do, but, I thank everyone for coming, and, I think it's a great meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, November 26th at 3 PM here. And so with no further business for the committee, I would seek a motion to adjourn. All in favor? All right.
so maybe we can try